Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in New York maybe.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia, and I was traveling around the world during 2001, and all I knew was I wanted to live and work in New York. So I moved there in late 2001, and mainly because of September 11, I had trouble getting a visa, so I left, and I went back a year or two later, and I've been living there ever since. And the photography community there is very vibrant. So one of the main reasons I wanted to be there was to network and learn my trade there, and bounce ideas off people, and you develop, I think, your voice more quickly being in an environment like that.
And so do you think that it's, well, obviously I think it would be much more competitive in New York, being such a large city and having so many artists being there, photographers being there, but you found it actually being more invigorating than competitive?
It definitely is more competitive, but at the same time, because there's more people there working in the industry, you find that you develop a group of compatriots, if you like, who are all bouncing ideas off one another. And so often what happens is you may think that it's more competitive all going to one gallery, but because there's so many more people trying to do different things, they create new opportunities. So you find, as an example, in Brooklyn, there's a lot of new spaces that open up, and they start showing each other's friends' works. So you continually develop this community, which is broader because so many people are attracted to the space.
And so what about your own work? The work here that you're showing is Passage.
Yes.
This is a fairly new work?
Yes, this work was all printed earlier this year and shown in New York in April at a gallery in the Lower East Side. The work developed over a few years, and I realized that I was exploring this idea of deterioration or destruction or change in the way in which we see ourselves. So I would look at representations of people, and I would find that I was seeing them quite differently from how they were originally put up in front of me, whether they were posters, fashion photographs of the past, family portraits, and using similar techniques to what I used previously in my work, so reflection or angling my camera to get different light. I could develop a voice within the work that wasn't as transparent when you just saw the images straight on. And I found that looking at older images and how we viewed them and how that voice changed was very, very interesting to me, and I hope interesting to other viewers as well.
And do you think that is also part of the reason why you installed it the way you have, not in a straight line, but in sort of groupings?
All my other work previously had been very linear. So I would edit my photos down, and I'd say, okay, so this photo I'm going to print this way, I'm going to frame it, and I'm going to hang it, and it's going to hang like this, and next to another photo, and they're going to be at the same level, and it's, you follow the work through. And given the topic that I was exploring, and the fact that images change based on the way that we see them and how they're put out there, so things change them, wouldn't it be interesting to explore how these images change if I show them a little bit differently? And I found that they played off one another in very different ways. But I consciously tried to not choose which images went with one another and choose the patterns. And what I tried to do was randomize it in a way. And I realized how difficult it is to actually make random choices, because I would put 3 or 4 photos together and go, oh wait, they're all women, so that's not random. Or these are all representations of mannequins. And so you sort of throw them around, and by throwing them around I found different shapes, both in each individual image, but also in the groupings and the layout and the way that it was hung. And I just found it a very, very invigorating process, because it broke that cycle of being straight. And the work continually changes.
And where do you think you'll take it from here? What's the next? Have you kind of finalized this and moving on?
It's funny, because most of the time when I do a project, I force myself to stop, otherwise I just keep going. And I need to do that to actually continue working. With this work, I've now discovered other ways to shoot similar things. So I found magazine photos where the paper is quite different, or when the light hits through the paper, I see different images in the faces. And so I've continued shooting, and I'd actually like to do a second series of Passage, possibly. But also for my sanity, I might need to do something new, because I see faces everywhere now. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Zev.
Thank you.